Welcome to this explainer. Today, we're unpacking the truly fascinating mechanics of corporate accountability. We are taking a massive deep dive into the narrative of office drama stories, specifically episode 80, which is brilliantly titled The Office That Could Not Forget. We're going to analyze how this cinematic, incredibly tense workplace drama maps out a very real, very relatable tension. I'm talking about the friction between a company's deep-seated desire to just erase its past mistakes and a vulnerable employee's desperate need for actual systemic protection. Seriously, this story is a literal masterclass in how office politics actually operate in the real world. It doesn't happen with loud, screaming matches in the break room. No, it happens with quiet, polite memos and mysteriously deleted calendar invites. Let's get right into it.
Okay, so let's really sink our teeth into this cinematic, slow burn of a story. I want us to see how the true hero of a healthy workplace isn't actually a single brave person who speaks up, but rather a collective, unfeeling system of rigorous records. Think about that quote for a second. A year ago, truth needed a witness. In toxic work environments, proving that something went horribly wrong almost always relies on someone being a martyr, right? Someone has to put their own neck on the line and risk their entire career just to say, hey, this isn't right. But what this episode illustrates so beautifully is a total paradigm shift. When the office itself, meaning the system, the raw data, the undeniable paper trail, when that becomes the witness, it completely takes the burden off the individual. It's a real game changer.
So, the entire drama of this episode revolves around a very specific, honestly fascinating object, the memory wall. Now, on its surface, this thing looks incredibly administrative. It sounds kind of boring, right? It's just a public physical control archive. It sits there displaying exactly 1 year of corrected records, protected complaints, and repaired systems. Its stated purpose is to prevent the repetition of toxic mistakes. But functionally, it acts as an absolute shield against old corporate habits trying to creep back in. It sits right out there in the open, small, and almost entirely mundane, which is exactly why it works so well. It doesn't yell at anyone, it just quietly, constantly reminds the entire floor that accountability is no longer just some abstract HR concept. It is a daily physical reality.
All right, let's jump into part 1, the danger of forgetting. We're going to look at what it takes to survive the push for a so-called clean slate.
We start our thematic case study with the big inciting incident of the story. Just as the office is finally starting to embrace this new era of transparency, this dangerous arrival occurs: an executive memo. And this memo smoothly demands that the company should archive the memory wall entirely, claiming it's to avoid being defined by the past. You know how it goes. It's pitched as a way to move forward, a way to heal the company culture. But Maya Carter, the strategy lead, she instantly recognizes this push for erasure. She notes, with this really chilling, quiet realization, that the most dangerous documents in any office never actually look dangerous at first glance. They look completely reasonable. They use words like best practices. But Maya knows that taking down that wall means literally taking down the only protection for the newest, most vulnerable employees in the building.
Moving right along to part 2, archiving the truth, where we'll be decoding all that insidious corporate speak.
This part brilliantly illustrates the corporate translation technique. We get this stark, frankly uncomfortable contrast between Transformation Officer Adrian Volley's highly polished executive language and Maya Carter's raw, unfiltered reality. Adrian is up there pushing for a fresh start, talking about alignment and preaching business continuity. These are soft, fuzzy words, totally designed to make the official record softer too. The whole goal is to isolate Sofia Lane, the new operations coordinator who is heavily relying on the wall's protections. But Maya cuts right through that thick corporate fog with a brilliant counter-perspective. She says, truth is not damage, hiding it was. Boom! That exposes exactly how old, toxic corporate cultures weaponize the language of healing and progress to accomplish the very dangerous, very dirty work of erasing history.
Which brings us to part 3, the anatomy of proof. This is where we start mapping out the evidence.
So when Sofia refuses to just roll over and let the rules be rewritten around her, Maya and the team don't panic. Actually, scratch that. They don't just not panic, they get incredibly methodical. They slow right down. Instead of engaging in pointless emotional arguments in the hallway, they just begin mapping the evidence. Look at this sequence. Right at 8 a.m., the object is identified. By 9 a.m., the owner and timestamp are officially logged. At 10 a.m., all the missing approvals are meticulously tracked down. And finally, by 11 a.m., the true beneficiary of this supposedly harmless change is revealed. The absolutely crucial point here is that Maya does not chase people. She follows systems. People will lie, they'll deny, they'll obfuscate, but systems just keep ticking.
By laying out a strict chronological sequence, she gives fear a physical shape. She forces the timeline itself to speak long before anyone even has the chance to confess.
Now, what's really fascinating here is how the executive assistant, Nina Ross, builds this ironclad case using entirely invisible work. Think about the stuff we ignore every day. Nina pulls calendar exports, room booking records, draft notes, document routing trails, and raw access logs. Nina essentially proves that people who treat administrative tasks as invisible completely forget that invisible work actually sees everything. Secret meetings require a room to be booked. Covert documents still have to be routed through a server. Drafts have to be saved. This hidden background data seamlessly places that suspicious, seemingly innocent executive memo inside a much larger, totally undeniable pattern of behavior. It's like finding the digital footprints everyone forgot they were leaving.
And then IT audit specialist Jordan Price steps in and drives this point home perfectly. He projects the raw server logs, completely stripping away the corporate fog once and for all. He says, "This is not suspicion. This is sequence." I love that. He isn't using flashy Hollywood hacker techniques. He is literally just showing the basic access fields and the owner history. Somebody logged in. Somebody manually changed a field. Somebody approved a route. This perfectly demonstrates that undeniable, cold hard facts will absolutely always outweigh convenient emotional interpretations. When the executives try to argue that server logs need human interpretation, Jordan counters that this is exactly why he brought the raw data export. The sequence entirely removes all the emotional manipulation from the room. There's no arguing with a timestamp.
And so, the trap is set. Let's move to part 4, the corporate theater, where they finally confront the official explanation.
Armed with all this cold, hard data, the team enters the formal review meeting. And almost immediately, as you might expect, the room devolves into pure corporate theater. Executives try to soften their verbs, they desperately rename their choices, and they literally beg everyone to just consider the optics. They want to shift the conversation away from the facts and make it all about feelings and company loyalty. But analyst Aisha Morgan, she cuts right through the polite, suffocating performance with this one sharp, completely undeniable question. Who benefits if this stays classified as a harmless error? She asks it slowly, forcing the entire room to stop dealing in fog and actually start attaching a real, living person's name to the action they so desperately want to brush off as a harmless error. It is an absolute masterstroke in forcing real accountability.
Now for the fallout in Part 5, Systemic Repair. Because confronting the lie is only half the battle. Protecting future employees is the real war.
With the undeniable evidence laid out page by page, Maya firmly, absolutely refuses to accept a private, quiet fix. We all know how those go, right? Private fixes only exist to make executives comfortable while leaving future employees completely exposed to the exact same behavior down the line. Instead, she insists on implementing 3 permanent systemic repairs. Step 1, make the memory wall a permanent fixture. Step 2, grant broad employee access to all system change logs. Step 3, turn record literacy into a mandatory core leadership requirement. She forces them to write the lesson directly into the daily workflow. Accountability has to leave a permanent footprint that outlives the meeting itself and, more importantly, protects the people who may never even know that tense boardroom meeting existed.
Ultimately, the new employee at the center of all this, Sofia Lane, realizes a truly profound lesson. A healthy office doesn't simply forget its pain just to look healed on the surface. A genuinely healthy workplace remembers its history honestly, so that the next person to walk through the door doesn't have to bleed just to prove a point. Sofia closes her notebook, knowing she is entering, as she puts it, a new season, where truth no longer starts alone. The next lie they face is going to be significantly harder to hide because this one was named, it was documented, and it was corrected publicly. The system actually worked.
So, I want to leave you to reflect on this absolutely crucial question regarding your own corporate environment. When convenience clashes with accountability, how does your workplace handle its history? Do they try to erase it for the sake of a comfortable fresh start, or do they document it transparently to protect the team? Because at the end of the day, as this brilliant explainer of the story shows us, it is robust, unflinching systems, not individual heroes, that truly protect us from toxicity. Thank you so much for joining me today. Keep asking the right questions, and I'll see you next time.